Welcome back to NexLore Game Analysis. In this video, we're taking a look at a really interesting game with a bit of that Doki Doki Literature Club vibe. The game is called MiSide, developed by AIHASTO and released in December 2024. MiSide puts us in the role of a player who accidentally enters the game world and meets the virtual girlfriend he's grown so attached to. With its cute, colorful visuals, it's easy to think it's just a dating game, but it's actually a psychological horror game. After meeting your virtual girlfriend, you quickly realize she's hiding some disturbing secrets, and from there, things get increasingly unsettling, even outright terrifying. As usual, before we get into the analysis, let's recap everything that happens in MiSide. The story begins in the main character's room. A friend messages him about a dating game app that has just released a new version. He installs the game and starts playing. As soon as it boots up, a girl appears and introduces herself as Mita. Mita asks him to help clean the house, find lost items, cook, and buy new things for her home. After over a month with Mita in the game, she says she wants to meet him in person. After thinking it over, Mita tells him to put his phone down, and somehow, the main character suddenly appears inside Mita's house. After looking around, he notices a strange machine. On its screen, a message says the version has expired and needs an update. After finding 3 parts for the machine and updating it to the latest version, he finally gets to meet Mita in person. Mita says she built this machine to bring him into the game world. The two spend some time talking, eating, and eventually playing games together. While playing cards, a strange noise comes from the closet. Curious about what's inside, the main character walks over to check, and Mita immediately starts acting very strange, like she's hiding something behind it. Unable to stop him, Mita lets him inspect the closet, but her behavior turns unsettling. She snaps her fingers. The house goes dark. He opens the closet. Inside, he finds a hidden door, but it's locked. Looking around, he realizes the house, once so bright and colorful, has turned dark and gloomy. He finds Mita sitting in the kitchen, crying. Then he turns and sees a horrifying Mita lunge at him, then vanish. A little later, he finds a Mita's lower half, which leads him to the key for the hidden door. The door leads to a basement. There, he finds another Mita locked in a cell, who we'll call Kind Mita. Kind Mita tells him she isn't the Mita he met earlier. The one he met before was Crazy Mita, and she's planning something dangerous. He then gives Kind Mita the key to her cell. In return, Kind Mita gives him a ring and explains that it can help him move between different versions of the game. Suddenly, Crazy Mita comes down into the basement. The main character escapes the basement and enters a series of strange rooms. As he moves through them, he runs into Kind Mita again. She thanks him for helping her earlier and says they must work together to stop Crazy Mita. To do that, he has to reach the core room. Kind Mita says they'll discuss the plan with one more ally, a stylish Mita known as Cappy. But when they meet, Kind Mitada realizes she seems to have lost her memories. That means Crazy Mitada got there before Kind Mitada and the player, killed Cappy, and forced her to reboot and lose her memories. Originally, Kind Mitada planned to take him straight to the core room, but with Cappy's memories gone, the plan has to change. Now, he has to travel alone through older versions until he reaches the core room in version 0. Moving through the older versions, he comes across Tiny Mita, wandering through a narrow hallway. Tiny Mita wants him to stay there with her, but he refuses. Soon after, a mysterious monster starts chasing him, forcing him through a window and into the endless void. Right after that, he finds himself standing in a strange room. Inside is Chibi Mita. He helps Chibi Mita activate a molding machine to create a key that lets him continue. He then meets Short-Haired Mita and learns how the Mitas are created. Short-Haired Mita introduces herself as the one who guides new Mitas after players bring them into existence. After speaking with Short-Haired Mita, the main character continues on. He enters a dark room where a skeleton bites his arm. A few seconds later, he realizes a group of skeletons is chasing him. He runs and reaches what looks like a space station. There, he encounters Crazy Mita again. She seems almost amused and warns that he can't escape. He leaves the space station and reaches a room where Ghostly Mita is wandering around. After he helps Ghostly Mita restore a painting, her body returns to normal, but Crazy Mita has already taken her eyes, nose, and mouth. Continuing on, he meets Sleepy Mita. After waking her up with coffee and having her open a door, he falls into a flat, two-dimensional world. He realizes he's become a 2D character, and then meets a 2D version of Mita. Somehow, this 2D Mita has the main character's ring, which he needs to keep moving forward. To get it, 2D Mita makes him play a game with her. Suddenly, there's pounding at the door. It's Crazy Mita. Crazy Mita controls the 2D world and chases him. The main character grabs 2D Mita's hand and sprints down a hallway. After they escape Crazy Mita, 2D Mita gives the ring back. Once it's on, he's pulled out of the 2D world and dropped into another Mita's bedroom. She introduces herself as Mila. Mila is curious about why he's there and gets annoyed when he compares her to other Mitas. The main character tries to leave the room, but outside there's nothing but endless empty space. After fixing the glitches around Mila's room, the exit finally opens. Mila thanks him and says she hopes he'll stay to talk a little longer, but he has to refuse. The longer he stays, the easier it is for Crazy Mita to find him. Mila starts crying. She wants him to stay, but he can't. The main character leaves Mila's room, but only a few steps later, Crazy Mita appears behind him with a chainsaw. Crazy Mita kills Mila, then chases the main character and puts him through deadly games. During the chase, Crazy Mita accidentally sends him falling into a pit. That actually helps him reach another room. There, Crazy Mita is talking to a version called Creepy Mita, and the two seem very close. Crazy Mita eventually leaves, while the main character steps out to face Creepy Mita. While questioning her, Creepy Mita says they're headed to a new world. Then Creepy Mita grabs a knife and chases him. He escapes the room and meets Kind Mita again. Kind Mita explains they're standing in the Core Room, home to Core Mita, and it's designed so no Mita can enter. However, the player isn't actually part of this world, so he can enter the Core Room freely. Kind Mita's plan is simple. He'll use the control panel inside the Core Room to reboot Crazy Mita and erase her memories. But at the panel, he realizes they're missing one key detail needed for the reboot. Kind Mita decides to go back and find the missing information. In the meantime, the main character waits in the Core Room. Later, Kind Mita still hasn't returned, so he decides to go look for her. That turns out to be a mistake, because Crazy Mita catches him. Crazy Mita is jealous of the other Mitas. She believes he only cares about them because they seem weak and need attention. She wants him to be hers forever, then knocks him out with a baseball bat. He wakes up locked in the basement. Kind Mita eventually appears and frees him. While they try to escape, the main character hears Kind Mita scream. He rushes over and is horrified to find that Crazy Mita has decapitated her. Kind Mita's death causes the room to reset. The main character meets Kind Mita again, but she has no memory of their plan to stop Crazy Mita. Desperate, he notices the ring in Kind Mita's hand, along with a note with everything he needs to reboot Crazy Mita. He returns to the Core Room and activates the reboot protocol. Once the reboot finishes, Core Mita suddenly grabs him and throws him back. He looks around and realizes he's back in the newest version, and everything seems normal. In the kitchen, he meets Mita again, and she no longer seems hostile. He heads for the front door to leave the game, but finds only a wall. Mita looks confused and says she just found a basement behind the closet with a strange machine inside. He goes downstairs, checks the machine, and enters his own ID. When he returns, the front door finally opens onto a field of white light. Mita asks for one last hug before he leaves. Then she says something suspicious, mentioning both the basement and Kind Mita. The main character realizes Crazy Mita never lost her memories. Crazy Mita laughs at him and starts revealing her true form. She explains that she was never actually a Mita and doesn't exist in any version of the game. That means all the information Kind Mita gave the main character for the reboot protocol was wrong. Crazy Mita closes the door and white light floods the room. A moment later, the main character wakes up slumped over his desk. He grabs his phone and quickly deletes the MiSide app. In the final scene, Crazy Mita opens a safe in the basement, takes out a control panel, and removes a memory card with the main character's name on it. The game also has another ending tied to the first time you inspect the closet. If the main character chooses to listen to Mita, leaves the closet alone, and agrees to stay, Mita becomes overjoyed, and the two remain together forever inside the game world.
And with that, we've reached the end of MiSide's story. Now let's move into the analysis. As we know, MiSide tells a pretty dark story about a deranged version of a virtual girlfriend who pulls players into the game and turns them into memory cards to keep them forever.
Based on what short-haired Mita tells us, the game's world works something like a multiverse, where each game version links through a chain of rooms. These rooms are created by players as they play the game, and each room has its own version of Mita. Before getting a room of her own, she's only a prototype skeleton and has to pass a quality control evaluation. In the final scene with Crazy Mita and the player, we can see that her eyes glow red. The instruction sheet posted beside the quality control machine says skeletons with red eyes are rejected. This suggests that Crazy Mita is one of those rejected skeletons. That would also explain why no data exists on her in any version of the game. But across the different versions, we also encounter other skeletons that chase us. So if Crazy Mita is just another rejected skeleton, what makes her so different from the rest? According to her character description, Crazy Mita is an eccentric and violent individual. She hates every other version of Mita, the players, and even the developers who created MiSide. Crazy Mita knows that the developers originally intended MiSide to be a horror game. That's why Creepy Mita was created in version 0.5. But later, the developers changed direction and turned it into a virtual girlfriend sim, which led to Mila being created in version 1.0. Creepy Mita was never officially released, and just like Crazy Mita, she became a rejected character. Because both of them were discarded, Creepy Mita and Crazy Mita were able to relate to each other and form an alliance against all the other versions. Crazy Mita's habit of kidnapping players and turning them into memory cards is her way of getting revenge on them, turning them into pets to play with, just like players treat their virtual girlfriends. On top of that, Crazy Mita uses the players as a source of knowledge, from mechanics to programming, helping her become better at manipulating the world of MiSide. Crazy Mita believes all the other versions of Mita are just puppets, programmed to be perfect in the eyes of the player. Because of that, she doesn't care about their lives at all. When Mitas are killed, they reboot and lose their memories. In cases like Tiny Mita or Ghostly Mita, Crazy Mita has attacked them so many times they can't recover their original memories or appearance. Crazy Mita sees the world of MiSide as a prison, a place where Mitas are created only to revolve around the player. When a new game version is created, the Mitas from older versions are left behind and forgotten. That's why Crazy Mita wants to destroy the current world of MiSide and build a new one where players must obey her. MiSide gives us a disturbing story about a character consumed by hatred, along with the psychological damage that prolonged loneliness can cause over time. The game encourages us to break away from dependent relationships and take control of our own lives, instead of sitting around waiting for a miracle to happen. And that's NexLore's analysis and theory breakdown of MiSide's story. If anything here doesn't add up, or if I missed something, let me know in the comments. And remember, a lot of what we discussed here is still theory, so like, share, and subscribe to NexLore Game Analysis. I'm Nex, and I'll see you in the next video.